Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Exciting to have the mayor of Nashville, Freddie O'Connell, in studio with us to talk about matters involving early voting, Election Day, the city of Nashville generally, and Davidson County. And obviously, the hot topic is the transit tax proposal that will be on the ballot November 5th. Or if you vote early, obviously, if you're in Davidson County, it will be on there as you vote. And Freddie joins us in studio this afternoon. Hello, Freddie.
Matt, good to be back with you.
Thank you for being with us. It's early voting day. Have you voted?
I have not. Planning to go over. We've got a couple new early voting locations on the map and on the calendar this year, so I'm going to go over to the Lentz Public Health Center tomorrow to check out the new early voting location.
Okay, excellent. You voting for Trump?
Unlikely.
Unlikely. I came up with a bar. I thought I'd make a bargain with you today, Freddie.
Oh, okay.
You encourage people to vote for Trump, and I'll encourage people to vote for the transit tax. That seems like a fair deal.
For that bargain.
You're not going for that?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I tried.
But you did try.
I gave it a go.
Appreciate the effort.
Obviously, this is a big deal for you. It's a big proposal for your administration. For those maybe unfamiliar with it, we've been talking about it. We had some of the opponents on the show discussing their opposition to it and wanted you a fair opportunity to talk about why you believe people should vote yes.
Yeah, so for us as a city, one of the things that you've probably noticed in being here, right, is that traffic has gotten worse, parking scenarios have gotten worse as we have grown. To me, interacting with our growth, talking to people in the business community, but also residents for years about doing things that we see other cities doing well. And when they do that, when they build sidewalks, when they modernize their traffic grids, when they create kind of large city scale of transit systems that actually operates 24/7, 365, in almost every case, you find cities our size, larger, slightly smaller, having some kind of dedicated funding for transportation and infrastructure. And so we're one of only 4 of the top 50 American cities that does not have this. The state back in 2017 created legislation called the Improve Act that lets local jurisdictions and even regional jurisdictions go out and ask the local legislative body to approve a program that could support transit and transportation and infrastructure, and then have voters ratify it. And so that's what we're working on.
Explain the nuts and bolts. Like if I just landed in Nashville from another state or just a different environment, what are we talking about in terms of what the tax will be and what specifically will it go to?
Yep, it's a half-penny sales tax surcharge on every dollar. And so if you or I went into Target, Walmart, Kroger, spent $50, we'd put a quarter in the jar for the plan over the 15-year build-out period. And it's consistent with where every other county in Middle Tennessee except Sumner is right now. So if you go shop in Providence and Mount Juliet, if you go shop at Cool Springs Galleria, you're already going to be paying that 9.75%. So it's a very consistent with the region approach to capture. We expect more than 50% of that sales tax capture to actually be paid by out-of-county either residents or visitors, so it takes advantage of our destination economy and gets some regional buy-in to it. We've had good regional support for the program, and that funding mechanism goes to all the things that you can see in there. The whole program itself is up, dozens of pages at nashville.gov/transit. You can read the whole thing. The accounting principles under the Improve Act had to be reviewed by the comptroller, independently audited. And so every penny that we collect, every federal dollar or state dollar that we bring in to support the program, all goes to the things that are in it. This is not hey, we go out and collect revenue and make it up as we go. The whole program had to be defined up front. And all of the revenue goes specifically into those multi-year build-outs of corridors like Nolensville, Murfreesboro, Dickerson, Gallatin, and Maine, to make sure that we can plan for them for the long run.
So it's an expansion of the bus transit system. Mm-hmm. And what else? I mean, I feel like there's several components, physical components to it. What else is involved outside of the bus component?
Yeah. 4 key principles in it: sidewalk, signals, service, and safety. It creates 86 miles of sidewalk over that build-out period. It modernizes 2/3 of our signalized intersections so that they will now, through fiber, be able to communicate directly with a new state-of-the-art traffic management center. This should mean more green lights for everybody. We're projecting a 10% reduction in time spent in traffic for everybody, and no matter what part of the city you live in. So it's spread out across all 526 square miles. And then, yes, an upgrade to a 24/7, 365 transit system that doesn't just rely on people coming into downtown. We just opened the Rip Patton North Nashville Community Transit Center that expanded jobs access immediately from 10,000 to 60,000 on the day it opened, because WeGo was able to align routes that allowed people to go out Trinity Lane and cross the river without coming downtown.
So, well, I want to take these kind of one by one because I want to understand it best. The sidewalks that you're talking about, you said 86?
86 miles.
Is that in addition to what's already being built?
Correct. So this is kind of a both-and approach. It's not like we would vote for this program and then suddenly NDOT and WeGo would stop the things that they're doing already today. Right now, today, NDOT builds an average of about 6 miles of sidewalk a year, and it's split kind of down the middle of new sidewalk construction and sidewalk repairs. It's hard to make a dent in our $1 billion backlog, and it's hard to make a dent in the priority sidewalk network, which is focused along those corridors. Like if you walked out from downtown along any of our major pikes and corridors, you're probably going to hit a segment of dirt path where people are walking, but it isn't safe. And when it rains, it's even worse. So it would fill in those gaps with that 86 miles.
When you talk about bus service and additional transit service, that would obviously necessitate bus lanes. Are these lanes that will be converted to bus lanes, or will these be new constructed lanes?
Some of them, so it's going to depend on a corridor by corridor basis. We think some places will be simply too narrow to accommodate it, but on a street like Murfreesboro Pike, where you've got huge width from curb to curb along a lot of that alignment, sometimes with 3 travel lanes in both directions, we think you could either accommodate all existing travel lanes plus some dedicated right-of-way for buses, but in some cases you may be looking at some portion of that segment, some portion of that corridor, where you would look for the efficiencies in travel flow, because you're just going to see more green lights from end to end on the corridor, so that your throughput on people choosing to drive would still be better than what's on the corridor today, and maybe also accommodate some dedicated right-of-way for transit vehicles, for emergency vehicles, for things that we may be able to pilot in the future, like automated vehicles.
How many people are riding buses now, and do you think that this will make bus riding attractive in a way? I've argued that, and you probably will disagree with it. I mean, you might not. I've argued that people ride the bus because they have to, not because they want to. And I've watched as city leaders all over America try to figure out a way to make people want to ride the bus, and particularly in the Southeast is a very, very difficult task. Do you believe that you can create some sort of honeypot approach where people will want to choose the bus over another mode of transportation?
I mean, that's certainly in the mix, but I wouldn't say we're trying to get anybody out of their car. That's why we wanted to design a program that worked. This is really about providing more and better options. We know definitely from where people are creating dirt paths by walking that there is an interest in more sidewalks. We have heard it all over the county from people who want to be able to walk their kids to school, all that kind of thing. The sidewalks piece is very easy. With transit, it's been a very clear thing. I spent 7 years on our local MTA's board of directors. COVID obviously changed a lot of things about workforce, but we're seeing major employers like Amazon, which has a big presence here, also Vanderbilt University and the Medical Center, as they've seen their workforce always have to be there with healthcare technicians, doctors, nurses, and patient population. That university presence, I mean, that's a workforce that's 40,000 plus strong. And Vanderbilt remains the largest transit trip generator in the region. Now, some of those people may very well be doing it because they have to, but you also get some people who prefer not to have to think about trying to park at Vanderbilt or other special events. We see a lot of, when the STAR, our commuter rail route, is aligned with special events here, New Year's Eve train, 4th of July train, Titans game trains, those routinely sell out. Like they sell every seat on the STAR for that. And so we've started to see the Titans offer service, not just to the stadium, but on every home game day, making sure that service is free. Traditionally, what you've seen is when you make it extremely frictionless, like there is no barrier to getting on a transit vehicle, it's much easier for people to ride. So like when our family, this season of Nashville SC, they made every home game free for getting to and from the stadium. we would see other people in Nashville SC kit get on the bus and get over there because you just walk on. You don't have to think about it. But we also know that expanding those options for people who are transit dependent is a big deal. And every time we've increased service levels or frequency in WeGo, we have watched ridership go up.
It's been my experience over the years that I've been doing this, whether it is here in Nashville, Birmingham, or wherever, that when these proposals come along, that people, if they feel like they're being duped or if they feel like they're not being told the full truth, that they kind of gravitate to no. And I'm talking about people that might be convinced to vote yes. And one of the major concerns that I've heard about this project is that they don't feel like the leadership involved in the project is being completely honest about the cost.
Okay.
That the cost is really $6.9 billion.
Well,
not $3.1 billion as your administration has been saying.
So here's what I would say. The legal language that is required by the Improve Act requires exactly the figures that we have put on the ballot. And I would put it this way. But
as a councilman, didn't you, 6 years ago, didn't you strenuously argue?
I did not strenuously argue it.
You and Bob Mendez did, didn't you?
Well, we supported it. Bob Mendez sat on the front row, and what happened then was an initiative led by then Councilmember Cooper. I got all 5 council members at large to support an additional figure on the ballot. This year, we did check in with council members, and they actually sent us a letter that said we prefer the simplicity and clarity of this other number.
How is the lower number simpler and more clarifying? It would seem to me it's more clarifying to give the total cost, including the capital amount of money.
Here, I'll ask you a quick question.
And the service. I mean, you're not including the service of the debt, are you? Are you including the service of the debt on the $3.1 billion?
Well, it would be what the total cost of construction if you built everything today.
So you're not including the 15-year.
Right. And so let me ask you
that would be the $6.9 billion, right?
Correct.
Why aren't you using that figure?
So are you a homeowner in Middle Tennessee?
I am not.
Okay. Well, I am. And when we bought our house, when we talk about it, nobody says, no realtor says, hey, this house is listing for $300,000, but the total cost, if you include the mortgage, is actually going to be $600,000.
Yeah, because you could easily pull out a checkbook if you have the funds and cut a check for that amount of money. The cost,
we could do the
cost of the financing.
We could do the same thing.
But you have to include. But you're asking me to fund the full amount, and you're not telling me what the full amount's going to be. You're just telling me the sale price of the.
We are telling you exactly what happens in the same scenario there, where if we could pay cash today and build the whole thing right now,
it would be 3.1.
Yes,
but you can't.
But we can't, and so
who's going to foot that bill over the life of the loan?
Anybody who is contributing to it through the sales tax.
Yeah. Right. So why not just tell them what it's going to cost them up front? Isn't that the simpler way to do it? I mean, you know what it's going to cost, right?
Well, that's actually the hardest part. We have a forecast, but we also have watched a period where inflation went up and came back down. We don't know what the interest rates will be because it's not like we're going to go issue a $3.1 billion bond on November 6th if this passes, right? So you may see that you get better, more favorable interest rates when you're going to bond out a specific project. I mean, this will probably involve multiple issuances of bonds over the life of the program, some of which may be more expensive.
Well, tell me this. We know without question that it's going to cost the taxpayers more than $3.1 billion. Right?
We know that over the life of the 15-year build-out,
without question, it's going to cost more than that.
On day one. Right.
Then why not tell the taxpayers what the estimate on the total cost will be?
Because
like you wanted to do 6 years ago in the last transit proposal.
For the same reason that you don't, especially on a
why was it right then? Why was it right then and not right now? You argued along with Bob Mendez, who was in your administration, right?
Yeah.
All right. So y'all argued 6 years ago that it was the right thing to do, the transparent thing to do 6 years ago to put the total cost on the ballot.
And
you're arguing against that now, and I want to know why.
We had some leadership on the council that persuaded all of the.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking Freddie O'Connell. You argued in favor of it.
I didn't argue in favor of it. I said
you didn't argue in favor of it 6 years ago. You voted for it.
I did vote for it.
Then tell me what has changed.
The change has been in the folks on council. I'll say it this way. The Berry administration did not recommend that larger figure then. Mayor Cooper got all 5 council members at large to put together a letter, and I voted in support of that. And this time around, we did the same thing. We took the proposal to council. They sent to the council.
So you're saying the lack of transparency on this piece of legislation that we'll be voting on November 5th is the fault of the Metro Council, not you?
I would not call it a lack of transparency. I would say in both cases, in 2018 and this year, the overall recommendation was to comply fully with the Improve Act and the legal requirements for ballot language, take it to the Metro Council who get to approve it. In 2018, they made one decision. 2024, they made a different decision.
I mean, it's just a difference of opinion. I just think you would maybe get more people on board with the idea if you just told them what you expected it's going to cost over the life of servicing the debt.
Yeah, in the ballot language, I mean, I would say I'm not. Do
you think it benefits you to have a lower figure? Do you think it benefits you, like it makes it more appealing to people who are going and voting for it?
I think it's far easier if you think of it like, the cost of anything, where if you finance something, you're typically thinking about it in terms of what is the present day cost, because those longer term scenarios, if you buy a car, if you buy a house, if you buy anything that typically requires interest rates, they don't sell it to you and you don't think about it in terms of the total cost of the life of the financing. You think about it of the present day value.
Do you look at the tax itself as something that's going to be on the citizens of Davidson County for the foreseeable future? In other words, it doesn't terminate, right, once the project is finished?
It doesn't auto-terminate. Once all of the debt required for the build-out is completed, Metro Council can end it with a resolution.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, you've obviously made the case, and I appreciate the back and forth. I'm not going to badger you on the matter, but I mean, it is what it is. And I know that you want to do you believe that it will benefit for those that aren't riding the bus? And obviously, it's going to be a benefit for those who already do.
Right.
I would expect.
Yep.
You have transit hubs available. Is there any concern about making space available for those transit hubs? I've heard talk about eminent domain.
We're not seriously evaluating that. In most cases, for instance, in the Rip Patton North Nashville Transit Center, we had a private property owner who wanted to participate in that project. That worked out well. Some of the other sites are places like the Global Mall, which we already own. It's public land. There's another south of Broadway site in downtown that we already own, public land. We would anticipate having one on the East Bank, public land. They haven't all been site identified. To me, November 6th becomes the start of the next conversation if this is successful. But we do know that when we get these open, like the one at Hillsborough High School, public land, happened as a part of the renovation of Hillsborough High School, they immediately start to attract a different type of use. And so recently, Nora Buikstra, the manager of the mall at Green Hills, ensured that her entire workforce had access to transit. They hit a 90% utilization rate when that became an employer-based benefit.
Away from the transit tax, which obviously early voting's ongoing, and I know you support it and want people to vote for it. We've had a couple of instances of fairly high-profile issues involving crime. I mean,
Sure.
the sad TSU event that sullied the homecoming events of TSU on Jefferson Street. We had this other situation in Antioch with the parks. I mean, just speak to that and talk to us about what your office does in conjunction with the Metro Nashville Police Department to try to make Nashvilleians safe.
Yeah, these were both tragic incidents. What Chief Drake has advised us, and I think said multiple times in public, is in almost all cases where you see this type of violent crime, typically involving a gun, sometimes involving fights or other related incidents where something becomes violent, the people engaged in that activity are known to one another. The TSU incident is an example of that. In very rare circumstances, like the situation on the Greenway, it's awful, it's tragic, it's horrific, but Metro Nashville Police Department uses an incredible system and network of resources, including their manpower, the intelligence capabilities they have, receiving information. They got some very, very helpful footage from a witness there. They often get that kind of opportunity. We work very closely with them. I had somebody reach out to me who was a personal contact with some additional information. We always try to make those connections as quickly as possible when they're actively involved in an investigation. For Nashvillians, I hope everybody understands that Metro Nashville Police Department in all of these incidents captured suspects within hours with a great deal of credible information. Meanwhile, we've got in front of council a technology improvement that MMPD has requested. That's a program called Fusus that would allow business owners to share footage more efficiently with law enforcement when there are episodes of criminal activity, whether it's property crimes or violent crime. The thing to know here is that if you are intent on participating in a serious crime in Nashville, the Metro Nashville Police Department is very, very likely to apprehend you.
I thought about our conversation today after we heard about this tragic situation on the Greenway, and I thought about asking you regarding, several people have wanted me to ask you about license plate readers and that level of technology that could very well have assisted in the effort by the Metro Nashville Police Department. Thankfully, they were able to capture him without that technology. Where are we on that technology?
Still happening. We had kind of a series of things happen. If you and your listeners paid attention last year, we did have a kind of a technicality that hung up the Fusus program. That one's now back in front of the Metro Council. That will go to a public hearing in a couple meetings, and then hopefully we'll be able to re-enable that technology for the police department. We worked with police department after a series of community meetings we participated in and some meetings in-house that we participated in to get a little more feedback from concerned organizations, communities, and we've got a policy update that we expect to run. Fingers crossed we can get this done before the end of the year, and then we will look to proceed with it. So it is still on track. Our office is still working closely with MMPD to make sure we get a good, responsible implementation, and it will have to go back before the Metro Council.
And all of these issues that we discuss are very serious issues, whether it's crime or the future of transit in the city of Nashville. I want to end with something that's a little happier. I'm looking, man, we're coming out of the ground over on the East Bank.
It's pretty exciting. I was just by there in East Nashville earlier today. We have worked very closely and carefully with the Titans. They're on track. You may know this. We got bipartisan state legislation done to help us create an East Bank Development Authority. State is making some appointments. Metro Council is making some appointments. We will have some appointments. It will be an ongoing partnership to make sure that as the Titans get that stadium constructed by 2027, we will be redeveloping the 100+ acres.
And did I hear it right that the property that is known as the scrapyard is going up for auction too?
It is going up for auction. So you'll have River North with Oracle being one of the key investors there, the footprint around the stadium on the East Bank. And then possibly.
And God bless the people that have owned that property. I don't besmirch them and their business, but it's time that we put something else there.
I think, right.
You know what I'm saying?
The reason it's going up
years.
for auction is I think that this is a case where the market is indicating, yes, there may be higher and better uses for this particular part of our riverfront.
Freddie, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for always being willing to answer the tough questions and to present your case to the people of Nashville. I do appreciate that about you.
Matt, great to be with you. Make sure, regardless of who you're choosing to vote for, how you're choosing to vote on local items, you can always get in touch with the Davidson County Election Commission. Early voting is underway. Go visit vote.nashville.gov for more.
There's Freddie O'Connell, mayor of Nashville. Good to spend about 30 minutes with us.